All right, let's talk about some things that TV stations have in common. First of all, we are network affiliates. Can anybody read that? Okay, you can see it? All right. We're network affiliates. We're kind of like, a lot of people think we're owned by the network, or that the network controls our news editorial content. That is not true. We're more like a Cadillac dealership. We sell Cadillacs, but we're not owned by Cadillac, if that gives you an analogy. So a lot of people confuse that, particularly with Fox, because the Fox News brand is so strong and they think that maybe Fox owns our station or maybe Fox controls our editorial content, and they don't. We, as commercial broadcasters, are not federally funded. 95% of our revenue and income comes from advertisers and advertising. So we have to make sure we provide an audience for them so they can reach their customers. We have to supplement our network with additional programming. Now, an NBC station, for example, and this number isn't perfect, but Ken's here, so you can ask him later. But an NBC station might get 12 to 15 hours a day of programming provided by the network, and they have to fill the rest of the time with syndicated programming or news. We're in the same boat, except Fox only provides 2 hours of programming for us on a Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday basis, not counting sports. So we have to fill 22 hours a day with news or syndicated programming. We have 2 television stations too. Our other one is WMYO, my network television. They provide 2 hours a day. So we're doing 44 hours a day of programming. 8.5 hours a day of that is news, and the rest of it is syndicated programming. 2 kinds of syndicated programming. One, the kind that you might call reruns, that originated on a network previously, and the other kind is the type of syndicated program that is produced specifically for television stations. Now we, having to provide 44 hours a day of programming, have bought a lot of syndicated programming. And if you, by the way, this is my first action PowerPoint slide, so thank you. Thank you so much. I love the sincerity. But these are some of the programs we have. There's one of our favorites, Judge Judy. We're the biggest Big Bang station in the country, the most viewed in the United States. There's Kelly and Michael and our good friend Dr. Phil, 2.5 Men, and coming in September of next year will be Modern Family. Now obviously that's an ABC program, so we bought that in syndication as a rerun, but it will do very well. So I just wanted to give you an idea, because we have to negotiate this stuff years in advance with no guarantee that it's going to be viewed well or that it's going to pay out. So hopefully we get it right more often than we don't. We face greater competition in the television business every day. Now we're not complaining about it or whining, because every one of you faces greater competition every day. But the fact is, our business gets more interesting every time we show up in the morning. And some would call it threats, you know, so I would too. But now you can watch video on an iPad, good quality video on a smartphone, but then you've got like Dish and DirecTV, and you've got Time Warner, and they're bringing in 150 channels, all of which are competing with us for your time. Then there's the thing called a DVR, which allows you to time shift. That puts you in control, so you can watch programs when you want to watch them, not necessarily when we want to put them on. This is a bad one. This is called the Hopper. This allows you to tape network primetime programs, and the next day, all of the commercials will be stripped out. Somebody's hands fell asleep over here. But I want to tell you, that's a really bad idea. Because if our advertisers can't reach our viewers, then our advertisers are going to go away. And if they go away, and you still want to see the kind of programs that you watch on television, you will be paying directly, and you'll be paying a fortune, or you won't get them. So we don't want that to happen. We battle with our networks, and we battle with, I've used the example Time Warner, but with cable companies, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. As you know, in early June, we came off Time Warner for about 6 days. In July, WLKY came off for about 10 days. And our friends at WAVE and WHAS hopefully will not have to go through that, but they're going to come to that critical point where the rubber meets the road with the cable companies later this year. Let me explain a couple things that happened in the Time Warner negotiation. First thing you need to know as a consumer of cable and television is that cable systems pay for content. They pay for each cable channel that's on, or most of the cable channels that come into your home. And they typically pay about $1 per month per subscriber, okay? So really, every one of you are paying about $1 a month for HGTV, for MTV, for A&E. You are all paying it to the cable company. They pass it right on. Interesting little statistic here. ESPN is being paid by you $4.98 a month, whether you watch a lot of it, a little of it, or none of it. $4.98, you don't have a choice. That's part of your bill. Now what happens is if you take that and multiply it by the tens, if not hundreds of millions of people in this country who subscribe to Dish, Direct, or a cable system in their local communities, multiply that out on a per month basis, add to that the hundreds of millions of dollars that ESPN generates in advertising revenue, and you're talking about a lot of free cash flow. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. So ESPN can go out and outbid Fox, for example, for the BCS Championship Football Series. They can go out and offer the University of Texas $1 billion to have the exclusive rights to the University of Texas football, basketball, and anything else they can think of. Our networks want to continue to keep the best programming, and they need money to do it. So they're coming back to us and they're saying, you need to get some money like that from the cable companies and send it to us so we can keep competing for NASCAR, for NFL, for baseball, and good sporting events like that. ESPN is tough. They're tough to compete with. But WLKY, WDRB, WHAS, and WAVE are the 4 most viewed channels on your cable system. It's not even close. Between the 4 of those stations, we account for about between 40 and 50% of all viewership, okay? It dwarfs ESPN. It dwarfs anything else you can think of on cable. So, we receive a certain amount of compensation for our product from the cable system. The networks are demanding a little bit of a share of that. We went to Time Warner. I don't want to tell you exactly what we asked for, but it was less than $1 and it started with a 6. Okay? In the 60 cent per month per subscriber range, which was way below some of the infrequently viewed cable channels that are getting $1 a month. We thought that was pretty fair. They offered us 40 cents per subscriber. We said no. We said it's got to start with a 6. They said no. Our contract was up. We said take us off. Let's see how that feels. So what happened was Time Warner didn't have any of the political clout that we have in Louisville. None. They weren't able to call Mayor Fisher, Lieutenant Governor Jerry Abramson, Metro Council President Jim King, or the Governor of Kentucky, and say, hey, would you mind talking to WDRB and talk sense into them? They didn't have those relationships. We did, and they got calls from those 4 people. But you know what I think tipped the scale for us? There are more than 150,000 deaf or hard of hearing people in our viewing area. 100, that is like 2.5 Papa John stadiums full of deaf or hard of hearing people. Think about the numbers. And WDRB is the only television station in the market that provides full, real-time closed captioning for those people. When Time Warner, well, thank you. When Time Warner took their news away, they got swarmed like a bunch of bees were attacking. Those people mobilized and they were all over Time Warner, and that's when we reached an agreement. Again, it's confidential. I can't tell you what we got. But it started with a 6 and it was less than $1. Okay. A lot of people thought we were a little bit greedy because we wanted more money. I want to tell you this, 100% of the additional money we got from Time Warner went to Fox so they can continue to procure better programming. We did not keep one penny of that, and that's a fact, just so you know. Now, if it gets boring around the dinner table at Thanksgiving and everything gets real quiet, no one has anything to talk about, and everyone looks to you for some interesting little tidbit or fact, I got one for you. This is kind of interesting. People don't know this. Now you do. You're going to be in the know. In the week of 10/22, which is the most recent data I have, the week of 10/22 to 10/28, 48 of the top 50 and 93 of the top 100 shows on TV were broadcast shows. They were not cable shows. Of the 7 shows that were in the top 100 on the cable channels, all of them were either sports or debates. Now, what's missing from that? Who was keeping up with the Kardashians? No one in the top 100. There was no Snooki, no Honey Boo Boo, and no Mad Men. So, you know, you hear a lot about those things, but they really aren't that big a deal. If they were, they'd be somewhere in the top 100. Just thought you'd want to know. Television, broadcast television, is still strong and vital. You know, I want to talk a little bit about the impact of the internet. I got into television because I love television. I love almost everything about it. I love the fact that when an advertiser advertises on it and you go see them the next day, it worked. That you don't have to go with your hat in your hand and say, did it work? It works. It's powerful. It influences elections. It influences people's thoughts. It reflects the values of the community. It's a wonderful place to be. I've always wanted to run a television station. I'm living the dream. And then I get the big bait and switch. It turns out that if I want to keep my job, I've also got to be an expert in tweeting, Facebook, unique web page views. I've got to be some kind of expert in stuff that didn't interest me. If it interested me, I'd do it at home. It doesn't, but yet it's become a vital part of our business. So, you know, I put these notes together myself. How did they get out of order? Nobody knows. Here it is. Okay, I'm back. Did they do that? I'm sorry. I'm back. It's my mother's fault. She drank when she was pregnant, you know. Did I mention that? It's a sad thing. It's amazing that I'm even able to stand upright. But anyway, so we have this bait and switch going on. But here's the good thing about the internet. You know, one of the things that newspaper has always been able to do better than television is go into more depth because they have more space. And if they had a compelling reason to, they could always add a page. We can't add time. Time is what it is. The laws of physics decide how long time's going to be, and then there's no more of it. And in television, that means we can only do a couple minutes for a story. We can't go into that kind of depth, but the internet has been very useful. And some of you may have noticed from Eric Crawford and Rick Bosich that we can do a story now, just like before, with great authority on television, and then that might be 250 words, and then we can direct somebody to an article that's 3,000 words long. We can give them all the depth they want. We, as the television industry, are trying to figure out how to really get our arms around the internet. The internet is really hurting the newspaper business, but it could be something that opens up great horizons for us in the future. So we're pretty excited about that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how WDRB differs from our competition. And I don't mean just wave television, because my good friend Ken is sitting here. I don't mean that. I mean from other television stations in general.